GT Divide Podcast coming to another episode. I appreciate you guys rocking with me. My voice kind of sounds weird, so if it sounds weird, I apologize. I will try to articulate as best I can so you can understand me. Uh, this is going to be our second installment of Biblical Tuesdays. Um, Crazy. I decided to organize a podcast, like try to get in a schedule. Tuesdays is from the Bible. Wednesdays are going to be about church cults. Like trying to organize everything to where there's a vision, and I've got it down. So second installment of Biblical Tuesdays. Please make sure you guys like, subscribe, and share, please, so we can get this out to people. We're going to talk about biblical husbands today. Um, so this for the men, ladies, y'all next. So next week, the biblical on Biblical Tuesdays on the next week, we will be talking about women and being a wife, a biblical wife. But today we're talking about being a biblical husband. I'll break it up into two parts possibly. We'll see how long this goes because I like to keep these things in that 10 to 12 minute mark. If I start to get close to that, I might cut it short and then we'll pop the other one off the next Tuesday. So, men, this is for you guys, and women, you can listen as well. What is it that God called men to do? So, you think back, we can go back to the beginning. We can go back to Adam and Eve in the garden. Um, Men were one with God, right? God created man from the dirt in his image. Woman was created from man, right? So he took the rib out, created woman because man needed a helpmate. He put men in charge of everything. He said, "You guys are in charge of all this." Um, and obviously, the fall of man happened. Um, that was the first time, as a biblical husband or biblical man, that man was out of place. I know Eve ate the apple. We all know Eve ate the apple. And I mean, think about your significant others, guys. Think about, as men, think about your wife, your spouse, your significant other, whoever it may be. And just kind of think about their demeanor and think about what your job is and what you do. Protect, right? Watching for danger. Was Adam watching for danger? No, he was not. He wasn't watching for danger because if he was, because think about who God gave the message to. God gave the message to Adam. He said, Adam, this is the tree that you shall not eat. If you eat any other tree in this garden, don't eat from this tree right here. Okay, fair enough. Easy enough? No, but obviously fair enough. Just don't eat from this tree. Creates a woman, and woman's like, and people use this as a meme, and they meme the heck out of this. So essentially, you guys will never die. You're pure. You'll never have fear. Your life will be in abundance. And dude's like, well, that's the first time we realized that nothing's going to be enough for a woman. So Eve was like, that ain't enough. Like, I need to know what God talked about up here. But she was deceived. She was deceived in that. So the serpent understood her nature. The serpent also understood the current nature of man. And I think people forget that when they talk about Genesis, they talk about Adam and Eve, is they forget that the serpent also knew the nature of man, right? He, how did he know that he could go talk to Eve? Why was he so comfortable, right? Where was Adam at? A lot of questions that people have got their kind of varying answers about. Personally, for me, I believe that he was out of place. And so the first part of this, I'm going to talk about a husband being in his place, number one. Like, what is your place as a husband? What are you doing in this place? For that, I'm going to take you guys to a couple verses. We're going to read a little bit and kind of go over a couple things. But number one, men are called to love. Ephesians 5:25. Let me pull up. I usually have it pulled up on my phone, guys. I apologize, man. I'm slacking today. I am slacking today. Ephesians 5:25 says, "Husbands, love your wives just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her." So let's break down what he means. So he says, "Men, you are called to love your wives as Christ loved the church." So let's think about it. What did Christ do for the church? He died. So in order for you to love your wives, husbands, something in you has to die, right? So let's talk about what has to die. Let's talk about manly nature, the nature of men. What and people talk about it. You see a lot of red pill podcasts talking about the nature of women, but we rarely talk about the nature of man. right? There's a lot of things that men have to do that aren't necessarily natural to them, right? We have developed things because of sin over time. So it's natural for men to lust after women, right? That's natural. You gonna look, you gonna check it out. That's what men do, right? That is because of sin nature. So when Adam fell, when the fall of man happened, men fell into sinful nature. So part of our nature is going to be rooted in sin. Our nature is not going to be rooted in truth. So who you naturally are is not rooted in truth, right? It's rooted in sin because man fell. If men didn't fall, then our nature would be pure and our nature would not be rooted in sin. But now our nature is rooted in sin. So when you think about the natural and nature of man, what a man actually is, their nature is sinful, right? And so when you have to die in order to love, that's what it means. You have to die. Your sinful nature has to die, right? The lust, right? Men have anger. What about how quick we are to anger, right? We're competitive individuals. We're quicker to anger. We may not know how to nurture well, right? So there's things that we as men don't naturally do, right? Part of our sinful nature is wanting to have multiple partners. Well, let's be honest. Let's be honest. It's part of the nature of man. So you have to kill that nature. That nature is to die for you to have one partner that you can love abundantly, like Christ loved the church. Because Christ's partner is the church. And so you have to understand that when Jesus calls for men to love their wives, like Christ loved the church, he's calling for men that there's a piece of you, there's something in you that has to die. Just like when you pick up your cross and you walk with Jesus or you want to disciple with Jesus, a part of you has to die so that you may live. It actually that's biblical. There are people like people will literally die so that a part of them may live because there's something in you that comes alive when the flesh and sinful nature dies. And so as a husband, we have to be able to let go and let death happen to our sinful nature. Otherwise, you can't be a husband. You can't be a biblical husband. Can you just be a regular husband? Do you know what regular husbands do? Do you know how the Mormons have multiple wives and you got open relationships and all that? Those are not biblical husbands. Those are just husbands. Those are just natural men in their nature being a husband, right? As a man in your nature being a husband, you can't be a biblical husband in your nature. So you have to let that die. And I can beat this in over 3 or 4 episodes that as a man, in order for you to love your wife like Christ loved the church, your nature as a man has to die. How you operate as a man has to die. And even when you think about baptism and you think about when you become a follower of Jesus Christ, part of you has to die just to follow Jesus, right? So to be in his covenant of marriage, how much more of you do you think needs to die for you to be able to operate in that covenant? That's the key. So, in order for you to love your wife, your spouse, your wife, because we look, that's it. Marriage is man and woman. So, in order for you, I'm gonna say wife the rest of the time. I don't know why. In my mind, it's just spouse just sounds correct, but it's wife. We're talking to men. So, as a man, for you to love your wife, you have to let go or let die your natural things as a man, the lust, right? The envy, right? The want for multiple partners, right? There's cravings that you have as a man. You have to let that die in order for you to love. So then the crazy thing is, so now you've been called to love, and Jesus said that there's a part of you that must die. So quickly, I'm gonna go over a little bit about what love is, and then we'll go into episode 2. So what is love in the eyes of the Lord Jesus Christ? What is love? So he gave himself for his love because he loved us, right? For God so loved the world, he gave his only son. So even God, when you think about God, what he gave for love was in flesh. When he gave his son, he didn't give his son in spirit, right? His son didn't leave in spirit. He gave his son in flesh. So the flesh, in order for God to love us, the flesh, there had to be death in the flesh, right? That's what I'm talking about. That's the nature of what I'm talking about. In order for you to be a biblical husband, you must die in the flesh first, right? And this is this is a lifelong journey. It's a lifelong battle. You don't just die in the flesh overnight. Oh man, I'm dead in the flesh now. We're good. No, it takes time. It takes effort, and then you have to be persistent, right? But God's showed us what love is because He Himself understood that in order for Him to love us, there had to be a fleshly death because the flesh to us as Christians represents sin. Now, was Jesus sin? No, but He died for sin. In order for sin to be gone, in order for you to be able to move on into the new you, your flesh has to die because flesh represents sin. That's what it does. Flesh represents sin, no matter how you spin it. So Jesus gave Himself for love. So love requires sacrifice, and we'll end on this piece right here before we cut off for the next one. Love requires sacrifice. The difference between lust and love. Let's talk about lust. Oh, I like you. You look good. Love. Oh, I like you. You look good. Lust. You're beautiful. You're a beautiful soul. Love. You're a beautiful soul. Lust when it's time to sacrifice. I don't know. I got to give something up. I don't know if I can give something up. I don't know. Like when it was going good, we good. But as soon as I got to give something, I can't do it. Love will sacrifice whatever it takes. That's the difference. Love will sacrifice whatever it takes. Your kids, think about your kids. And this is the crazy thing is that type of love is in us. For some odd reason, we don't put that onto our spouse. And that goes for men and women. That type of love is in us, but we don't give that type of love to our spouse. Why? We'll talk about that on another episode. There's a reason why we don't give that type of love to our spouse. We give it to our kids, right? But we don't give it to our spouse. And there's a different reason for men, and there's a different reason for women. All right. So that's the end of episode one, though, guys. Please like, subscribe, and share. Be in tune for the next one because we're going to continue to talk about love and we're going to dive a little bit deeper into what love is. And we're going to continue to talk about what it takes to be a biblical husband. GT with Biblical Tuesdays. I'll see you on the next one.